Catus, Maximus here. This time with a little review of the ColdHeat Pro. This is a cordless soldering iron. They do have a more modern one, but this was the one that of the same series that originally came out. There was a ColdHeat, had nowhere near enough power, so they came out with this Pro one. First time I've actually tried using it. We'll see how it goes. So the deal with this soldering iron is it's actually a little bit different. Battery powered, but instead of just using it to heat up a traditional heating element like most soldering irons are, instead it has this really kind of strange tip, and these are two kind of graphite metal impregnated halves that are stuck together. And the idea is you take one of these and then it goes across the contact, and as soon as you bridge it, it just runs a bunch of amps and the batteries through it, causing the contact and the tip to heat up. These don't really work very well because you can't really flow solder into them for soldering, and for desoldering, they just don't deliver very much energy. Oftentimes the heat just stays too close to the top of the leg on whatever circuit and doesn't get deep enough. So either you don't wick it in or you can't wick it out and remove a component. So that's kind of what's nice about a traditional soldering iron. And when you need to actually solder something, you really still are stuck with a traditional type of soldering iron. Cordless, you really need to use like one of those benzomatic butane cordless soldering irons if you actually want to get some real work done, because you actually need to be able to deliver heat properly through the pad and through the contact, rather than having one of these little things that's kind of just focuses the heat too much on the end. That's always been the issue. I only have one tip. I did pick this up at a garage sale, and actually from the original owner, and they said the same thing. They had gotten frustrated. I actually only got one tip with it, which is just a standard tip, but we'll see how it goes. So it has two power levels. We're just going to go straight to power level 2. Has a little LED light, so I suppose that is something there. When you turn it on, it just runs the voltage from the battery, so you have to be careful. It's not made for real fine or electronic components. One of the issues here is, say, with like a chip, is if you can't really use it with a chip because you'll bridge a couple of the different contacts, and 7 volts is more than enough to actually damage something. But we'll see if we can't get this capacitor off of here. And so the deal is it should be automatic. We'll see if we can't get the red light to show up. The red light's supposed to show that it's actually working, but as soon as you just touch it, yep. And that time it actually delivered enough current to actually heat it up, so that's not too bad. I have to look let's try it this way. Whoop. It's not delivering enough wattage. See, there's a little spark there. You can see that. See that sparking? That's one of the other issues, is that you really don't want to be using a tool that actually arcs and sparks like that. That also causes heavy erosion on the tip. Each little spark causes a little bit of erosion, and we can already see that from when it's new, you can start seeing the tip wallow out. So the tips wear out really fast. This is a small capacitor with just, I'd say, standard size legs, and this thing just, there's a little bit of extra solder goop. With this just standard 25 watt iron, I would have held it on there for a couple seconds, would have had no problem. But in this situation, I can see the red lights on, we're delivering energy, but I'm just not able to get enough heat. So that's really the crux of the issue with these ColdHeat soldering irons, is really not enough power. And I just keep trying to apply more and more heat to that, and it just isn't doing well enough. I'm getting some smoking even. So it's funny, I'm getting smoking, yet the solder joint just doesn't have any heat. We can try this other side again that I was using, but once I got that leg kind of partially pulled through, now it's trying to deliver all the energy through that glob of solder and just can't heat it up. So that's really, and that's on mode 2, that's on the high level. Something like this could potentially work if it were, say, 10.8 volt lithium ion, but once again, the other secondary issue is that you actually have live terminals, which isn't really what you want to be using when you're doing electronics. Here, I've got an LED. This is a tiny little leads. Let's see if I can't desolder it. I do not like all that Oh yeah, look at that. Oh, I think I just, there we go. You can see it's enough power to light up that blue LED. I'm surprised it hasn't burned up yet. So you can see that's one of the big issues, is just simply uh, causing way too much power to go through so many components, like an LED that you may be wanting to save. You could easily just burn it up. And I was able to get one of the pegs to move. It seems as soon as it moves and the solder isn't distributed properly, that it just can't deliver enough energy. The problem with this is the legs on this diode are just too thin and are actually slipping between the two tongs there. So anyway, cold heats are generally not recommended. They really just aren't very effective, and I actually had read quite a few reviews, so I've seen these. They've sold millions of them apparently, and always kind of knew that they had these types of issues. Many reviews. It was just one of those really cheesy kind of like QVC products that you don't know, people like the idea of it, but it just never worked, and it doesn't even work like they show it on their ads, which is probably one of the biggest disappointing things even for the Pro model. So that's the crux of the story. Don't get sucked into the cold heat thing. And, if you need a cordless soldering iron, get a butane one. Otherwise, just use a traditional, little 25-watt plug-in iron, and you're going to be much better off. More than much better off. You'll actually be able to get the job done. This doesn't even get the job done. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.